Hey there, this is my third video for my daughters Ellie and Sienna, and this is going to be a good one. And there's a lot of important life lessons from the answering of this question. Why was the One Ring of Power in The Lord of the Rings so hard to destroy? I think J.R.R. Tolkien is a brilliant visionary with the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the parallels to life, to real life on this earth, that there are to it. So Ellie and Sienna, my daughters, if you have not watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy, please go do that. And then watch the Hobbit trilogy. Great movies, a great story, great lessons contained therein. Dido's kind of shifting around, so I'm trying to navigate that. All right, the Lord of the Rings, the One Ring of Power, Sauron. So make sure you watch the Lord of the Rings before you proceed with this video. So these spoilers, these are called spoilers because I'm going to give away the plot of the movies, girls. So once you watch the movies, then you can unpause this video and watch it. So Sauron is the main, I think it's called an antagonist, the main villain of the Lord of the Rings. He created these rings that you put on your finger, and they're magic rings. He created 9 rings for mortal men. He created 7 for dwarves, dwarf lords they are called. 3 rings for the elven kings and queens, and 1 ring for himself. And this 1 ring was made to rule all of the other rings, to give him control over all the other people wearing the other rings. And essentially what happened is the men who got the 9 rings turned into wraiths, neither living nor dead is how they were described, became corrupted and slaves to Sauron's will. The dwarf lords went insane in their deep and dark halls, and the elven kings and queens, or I don't know what I would call them, princes or princesses, felt the deceit coming and took off their rings, so they were not affected. And Sauron desired control above all else. He desired the power, control, and manipulation. Power, control, and manipulation are primary drivers in this world of most people, Ellie and Sienna. If we do not check ourselves, if we do not check our egos at the door as a metaphor, if we don't consciously suppress the darkness in each of us. I have this darkness too. Every man does, and to some extent women do. I think men do struggle with it more than women, but both have it in different ways. Power, control, and manipulation. And why is that? Why did Sauron want to have power, control, and manipulation? Because what's the alternative? What was the alternative to this? It is to not have power, control, and the ability to manipulate. And when you do that, you put yourself at the whims of someone else who might be doing that. It's pretty straightforward. So the One Ring of Power was made, and Sauron was using it, and he was destroying people and was practically invincible, but the ring was cut from his finger as he tried to kill Isildur, one of the kings of old. And Isildur, in the movie depiction, Sauron reaches for him, and Isildur takes a broken sword that Sauron had stepped on and broken and cuts his finger off, and the ring falls off. And Sauron is defeated. Isildur gets the ring. He goes with Elrond, one of the elf kings, to the Mount Doom, it's called, a place of lava and fire where the ring was made, the One Ring was made. And Elrond tells him to cast the ring into the fire and to destroy it. And Isildur does not. He makes a face of, "This is mine." He takes the ring and he leaves. And later Isildur is murdered. And the ring betrays him and falls into the river for a long time until it is discovered by, I guess it's a river folk, Deagle and Smeagol. and they fight over the ring, and Smeagol strangles Deagle for the ring. He strangles his best friend for this ring. This ring exhibits great corruption to any who come in contact with it. It creates a need and a dependence on it. Smeagol takes the ring and becomes disfigured and turns into a hideous creature that ends up hiding in the mountains. And then the ring betrays him and falls off his finger, where it is found by Bilbo Baggins, who takes the ring, finds it, learns that it can turn him invisible. Smeagol goes insane once he realizes the ring has been stolen, and hates Bilbo with a passion and a deep hate that is not seen very often. Bilbo then has the ring for a while, which he then gives to his, I don't know if it's his nephew or some close relative, Frodo Baggins. Frodo Baggins has the ring and starts to feel the pressure of the ring, and it ends up the first Lord of the Rings movie is the Fellowship of the Ring, and Frodo has to take the ring along with a company of, along with a dwarf, elf, some men, and Gandalf the Wizard. And anyways, the story of the Lord of the Rings is the effect, to me, the effect the ring has on people. Throughout the movies, there's various instances where you see the ring having an effect. It has a voice of its own. It allows the wearer to turn invisible. It is a means of power. The hobbits, interestingly enough, are the most resistant to this power. Men are the most easily corrupted. And as Frodo goes along his journeys, Boromir, one of the men in his Fellowship of the Ring, tries to take the ring from him, and then feels bad afterwards. And then Smeagol finds Frodo and Sam, who end up being the final two to take the ring to Mount Doom in Mordor to try and destroy it. And they end up traveling together, and then they get found by Faramir near Minas Tirith, which is very close to the border of Mordor, where Sauron and his armies are. And Mount Doom is just a ways over the border of Mordor. And so Faramir gets corrupted and takes the ring from Frodo and says, "Tell my father I have a mighty gift." But something happens when Faramir gives the ring back. I think it's when he learns that Boromir tried to take the ring from Frodo and it destroyed him. And Faramir has a change of heart, fortunately, and gives the ring back. I believe that's what happened. And then Frodo and Sam eventually go into Mordor, face many trials there. Gandalf even said that Smeagol had a role to play in not the destroying of the ring, but in how things would turn out. He said, for good or ill, Smeagol has a role to play. And eventually, Frodo and Sam get to Mount Doom, and they're on the precipice of there's like this ledge, and all the lava's below. And all Frodo has to do is toss the ring into the fire. And in that last moment, the ring takes a hold of Frodo, and he says, "The ring is mine," and he puts it on, drawing the attention of all the ring wraiths, and who are with an army battling the last forces of Middle-earth, who are just trying to stall to buy time to just have the ring get destroyed. For some reason, that's making me emotional. I think it's because it was their last ditch attempt. It was knowing that this had to succeed, or everything was doomed. And there's just I've had times like that in my life, girls, where I've realized that I have to succeed at this thing, or all is lost. All right, 1 second. Okay, so there's this battle going on. The Middle-earth army is outnumbered greatly by Mordor army, trolls and orcs and ring wraiths, but then the ring wraiths start flying back to Mount Doom, and Frodo's invisible, and Sam is just like devastated. And then Smeagol comes up from behind Sam and knocks him on the head with a rock and knocks him out. And Smeagol sees the footprints from Frodo and gauges where he is and jumps on his back, and there's a wrestling match. And Smeagol bites, probably found where his hands are and could feel the ring, and bit his finger off and got the ring. And Smeagol was finally happy. You should, if you watch the movie, I'm assuming by now, if you're listening to this, and you see a face from Smeagol of complete happiness and dancing, and he and Frodo fall off the ledge as Frodo tries to wrestle the ring back, and Smeagol ends up falling all the way into the lava with the ring in his hand, and he falls in the lava, and the ring is resting on the lava, and Frodo's hanging on for dear life. And Sam awakens and lifts Frodo up, and eventually the ring goes and is destroyed in the lava. And Frodo and Sam are eventually rescued by the eagles. There you go. There's the backdrop of what happened with the ring, and why Smeagol was necessary is because it's quite likely no one was capable of destroying the ring. Arriving at the precipice in that ledge with the lava and faced with the actual choice of destroying the ring, when push came to shove, when that moment came, there was a realization that you were giving up power to destroy this ring, to cast this ring into the fires, to give up power that you have in your hand. That's why it was so hard to destroy. It's something that's not easily given up. In today's world, power is not easily given up. You have our U.S. government and senators and people that have been in positions of power for decades. And it's always a tug of war between the Republican and Democratic parties for power. But both are essentially doing the same thing. So I don't really get into politics, girls, because I have no control over this. But it's just essentially the same thing. It's a power struggle and trying to do what it takes to gain the power. And it's almost like each Republican gains power. They have the one ring, it betrays them. The Democrats get it. They now have the power. They lose the power. And it's a seesaw of power. Power is incredibly difficult for people to give up. Imagine this, Ellie and Sienna. Why aren't people just handing you money on the street? When I'm out and about with you girls, why aren't people walking up to us and saying, here's $10. Here's some money for you. Why isn't that happening all the time? Just think about that. Contemplate that for a minute. One of the reasons is there's a lot of people with not money. True. But another reason is money is power to people. And money's a tool, but the power it represents is a microcosm, an analogy, a parallel to the one ring of power. Imagine if you had $1 billion. Would you easily give that up? Sienna, you might. You just want to give. You have no reference to having money and power, Sienna. You are pure and innocent, as far as I can tell. Although you're 12 years old now, so at 12 years old, I stopped being innocent. So, something for me to think about. But billionaires aren't going around just handing money to people because it's a giving up of that power. But there are people who are doing it. Remember one of my last videos? That was epic. He's giving away money to people. And I'm not saying he's giving like all his money away, but he's giving what is for most considerable amounts of money because he has been very successful at YouTube and generating money. He's been very successful at it because he's good at it. He's very good and he's confident and he's creative and he provides tremendous value. So he is overcoming the one ring of power. But it's difficult. Why doesn't the president ever say, of the United States, ever say, you know what, I'm wrong, I don't know everything. I could use some help. Why don't these things occur? Because to say that is to relinquish power. I think most men on the earth fear loss of power. They fear being controlled. And yet, most are the very thing they fear. They are controlled and they are powerless without even realizing it. Because if you are a slave to your impulses and your general human emotions and desires without thought or care, you're a slave. You have no choice. So this is why I think the one ring of power is so difficult to give up, and no one could have destroyed it in The Lord of the Rings. Smeagol had to be there as a wild card to create a tussle, to create the chaos necessary to override the choice of destroying the ring. The situation destroyed the ring. And that's pretty profound. That Tolkien had the ability to write that. It's pretty profound when you think about it. And it's mysterious because I have known that in my life I've had situations where I was incapable of doing something until a match was lit, a spark was created that allowed something to happen. There's been many experiences in my life where I needed that extra chaotic or just extra thing or extra random event, extra person to come into my life, extra something besides myself happened that caused me to change course. My divorce is a good example of this. I had been thinking about divorce well before the year 2014, but I was too scared, too much of a coward to initiate it. But someone came along my path in my life and was the match being lit, was the spark that pushed me over the edge to have the courage to do it. And I no longer talk to this person. I don't believe I ever will. That person was just a temporary match to be lit, to propel me in a new direction in life. So there are, at least for me, I don't know what your experience is for you watching this, Ellie and Sienna, or anyone else. But I've had events in my life that altered my course for somewhere I wanted to go that wouldn't have happened if it was just up to me in my own power and my own abilities. It took something else, an event, an occurrence, another person. And that's interesting to me. It's very interesting to me. So observe this life, this earth, and what people are doing in it. Just observe your friends. Observe the men you date or the women you date or whoever you date, girls. Just observe them. Watch them. How do they handle power? Are they in a mode where they're trying to control everything? If I were to describe a man for you girls, look at That Was Epic. I don't know the guy. He could be a serial killer. I don't know. I have no idea. But on the surface qualities I see, a guy who's giving, who's out creating, who's joyful and confident, not loud or aggressive. That's the kind of man you want to be with, girls. There's not many of them out there. Most men are easily corrupted. Most men are loud-mouthed and aggressive on the extreme, or they're way too passive and timid. I understand the passive and timid side. That's the side I struggle with. But there's many on the other side that are just try to use brute force, aggression, intimidation, threats to get what they want in life. That's no good either. Both extremes are bad. You want the sweet spot in the middle. And these are my thoughts about the One Ring and why it was so hard to destroy. Because to destroy the One Ring is to relinquish power. Not something easily done. I mean, I look at myself. Why don't I just give all my money away? Why don't I just sell my condo, go live in a car, and give all of it away? Something to think about. Why am I trying to grow my golden goose? Because I have self-interest. I want that security and freedom. Isn't that a sense of control and power that I am trying to create with what I'm doing? It gives me pause. It makes me think. But I still think it's the right thing to do. It's having some self-interest is okay. Trying to have some sense of livelihood is okay. All right, that's all I have to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say. The One Ring of Power, and why it was so hard to destroy. Why do you think it was so hard to destroy? Ellie and Sienna, and any who are watching, share in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. But this is video number 3 for Ellie and Sienna, my daughters. Why the One Ring of Power in the Lord of the Rings was so hard to destroy, and parallels to this life. Namaste. See you in the next video.